If you're a guy over 40 and you think you already know what Americans are really doing in the bedroom, I need you to pause for a second, because some of this is probably not what you expect. I see men every single week who are confused, embarrassed, or quietly worried because their bodies aren't keeping up with what they think is normal anymore. And here's the truth most people won't say out loud. The sexual activities that are most popular right now can either support your hormones and confidence or completely wreck them if you're not paying attention. A couple on this list are actually driving low testosterone, fatigue, and performance anxiety in men your age. And number 9 and 10, those are the ones that make guys sit back and say, "Wait, that explains a lot." Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Camila Hayes, a men's health specialist here at the Diabetes Health Clinic. And for years, I've worked with men over 40 who want their energy back, their confidence back, and their sexual performance to feel solid again. Not forced, not faked, and definitely not dependent on quick fixes. Most of the guys I see are successful, hard-working men who did everything right in life, but nobody ever explained how aging, blood sugar, hormones, and sexual health are all connected. My job is to help you understand what's actually happening inside your body and show you how to work with it, not fight it. I don't judge, I don't sugarcoat, and I don't believe in one-size-fits-all advice. I believe in real-world solutions that actually work for men your age. Here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to break down the top 10 sexual activities Americans are actually into right now, and more importantly, what each one does to your hormones, your energy, and your performance as a man over 40. Some of these might surprise you, some might make you uncomfortable, and a few are probably things you've tried or are curious about, but never talked to your doctor about. I'll explain which ones can quietly help your libido and confidence, which ones tend to backfire with age, and why a couple of the most popular trends are leaving men feeling more drained and anxious instead of satisfied. And I'm telling you right now, stay with me until the end, because number 9 and number 10 are the ones most men never expect, and they explain a lot of what I see in my clinic every day. Before we jump into the list, you've got to understand why this conversation even matters, especially if you're over 40. Most men think their sexual interests and performance are purely mental or purely about desire, but that's not how the male body works as it ages. Sex drive, arousal, stamina, and satisfaction are deeply tied to your hormones, your blood flow, your nervous system, and yes, your metabolic health. Here's the deal. Around your late 30s to early 40s, testosterone doesn't just drop off a cliff, but it does become more fragile. Think of it like a checking account instead of a savings account. When you're younger, you can get away with bad sleep, stress, poor diet, and still function fine. After 40, every withdrawal matters. Poor sleep, excess alcohol, blood sugar spikes, chronic stress, and certain sexual habits can quietly drain that account. Another thing most men don't realize is that novelty hits the brain differently as you age. Dopamine, the motivation and pleasure chemical, doesn't fire as strongly or as cleanly as it did in your 20s. So activities that rely heavily on overstimulation can actually make real-life intimacy feel dull or stressful over time. That's where confusion creeps in. Guys start thinking, "Is something wrong with me?" When really, it's a mismatch between what the brain is being trained on and what the body can sustain. Blood flow also becomes a bigger player. Erections are a vascular event. If circulation isn't optimal because of insulin resistance, early diabetes, or inflammation, certain sexual activities feel harder, more effortful, or less rewarding. That's not a moral issue. That's physiology. And here's the part men usually get wrong. They assume doing more or trying newer things will fix the problem. But sometimes the very activities that are popular or normalized are the ones quietly increasing performance anxiety, fatigue, and disconnection. This stuff sneaks up on you. One year everything feels fine, and the next year you're frustrated, tired, and second-guessing yourself in the bedroom. So this list isn't about judging what anyone is into. It's about understanding how certain sexual behaviors interact with the aging male body, what supports your hormones and confidence, and what slowly works against you without you realizing it. Once you see that clearly, the whole picture starts to make a lot more sense. All right, let's get into the core of this. I'm going to walk you through 6 major sexual activity patterns that are extremely common in the US right now. Each one represents multiple behaviors that tend to cluster together. I'll explain what's going on inside your body, why this hits men over 40 differently, and what actually works versus what most guys assume works. First, visual-driven solo stimulation. Let's call this what it is: porn-based masturbation. This is one of the most common sexual activities in America, especially among men over 40 who are busy, stressed, and tired. What's happening in the body is primarily neurological. High-stimulation visual content floods the brain with dopamine. When you're younger, your brain resets quickly. After 40, that reset button gets slower. Over time, the brain starts needing more stimulation for the same response. Why does this matter? Because real-life intimacy doesn't come with endless novelty, camera angles, and constant dopamine spikes. So men start noticing delayed arousal, weaker erections, or mental distraction during real sex. What most men think is happening: I'm just blowing off steam. Totally normal. What's actually happening? Your brain is being trained to respond to intensity, not connection or physical sensation. What should you do? This isn't about shame or quitting cold turkey. It's about moderation and retraining sensitivity, more focus on physical sensation, less on constant visual novelty. Men who rebalance this often see libido and performance improve without medication. Second, quick, goal-oriented sex. This is sex that's rushed, transactional, and focused entirely on performance and ejaculation. Very common in long-term relationships, especially with work stress and family demands. Physiologically, rushed sex keeps your nervous system in a sympathetic state, fight or flight. Erections actually prefer the opposite: relaxed, parasympathetic activation. Why men over 40 struggle here is cortisol. Chronic stress hormones directly suppress testosterone and nitric oxide, which affects blood flow. What most men think: I just need to push through it. What actually works: slowing things down, longer foreplay, breathing, and removing the mental stopwatch. Men are shocked how much better erections get when pressure is removed. Third, novelty seeking and constant variety. This includes chasing new experiences purely for stimulation, new positions, new partners, or constant mixing it up without emotional grounding. Novelty boosts dopamine, but too much novelty trains the brain to crave change instead of depth. After 40, dopamine spikes come with steeper crashes. Real-life example: a guy tells me, "Doc, I'm bored faster than I used to be." That's not boredom, it's dopamine tolerance. What most men think: I need something new to feel excited. What actually helps? Novelty paired with connection. Emotional safety increases oxytocin, which stabilizes arousal and improves satisfaction long-term. Fourth, performance-enhanced sex. This includes heavy reliance on pills, supplements, or alcohol to guarantee performance. Here's the issue: when the brain associates arousal with external aids, confidence erodes. Erections become conditional. Alcohol especially reduces testosterone and interferes with nerve signaling. One drink might relax you. Regular use backfires hard. What men think: this helps me relax. Reality: it teaches your nervous system that you can't perform naturally. Better approach: address sleep, blood sugar, fitness, and stress first. Meds can help, but they should support your body, not replace it. Fifth, silent, avoidant sex lives. This is extremely common and rarely discussed. Less sex, less initiation, more avoidance due to fear of failure or rejection. Physiology meets psychology here. Avoidance lowers confidence, which lowers testosterone response, which worsens performance. It's a loop. What men think: I'm just tired. It's normal. Truth: disconnection accelerates decline. What helps? Open communication, lower pressure intimacy, and addressing health markers early, before avoidance becomes identity. Sixth, high-intensity, ego-driven sex. This is sex driven by comparison, competition, or proving something. often influenced by media or past performance. Adrenaline replaces arousal. That works short-term, fails long-term. Men over 40 feel this hardest because recovery slows. The body needs more parasympathetic input to perform well. What actually works better? Confidence rooted in health, not performance theatrics. I worked with a patient. Let's call him Mark. Mark was 52 years old, married, 2 kids, solid career, no major medical issues on paper. From the outside, everything looked fine. But when he came into my clinic, he was frustrated and honestly a little embarrassed. His main complaints were low desire, inconsistent erections, and this constant feeling that sex had become stressful instead of enjoyable. Lifestyle-wise, Mark was doing what a lot of guys do: long work days, not sleeping great, a couple drinks at night to unwind. Sex had slowly shifted into something quick and pressure-filled. If it didn't happen fast, he'd get in his head. Over time, he started avoiding initiating altogether because he didn't want to fail. His confidence took a hit, and that started bleeding into other areas of his life. When we dug deeper, a few things stood out. His testosterone wasn't dangerously low, but it was low normal. His blood sugar was creeping up, cortisol was high, and neurologically, his brain was wired for stimulation and stress, not relaxation and connection. Instead of jumping straight to pills, we worked on fundamentals. We stabilized his sleep, cleaned up evening alcohol, focused on blood sugar control. We also talked, very openly, about slowing intimacy down and removing the mental scoreboard. No rushing, no pressure to perform, just rebuilding comfort and confidence. Within a few months, things changed. His desire came back naturally. Erections became more consistent. But the biggest shift wasn't physical, it was psychological. He stopped seeing sex as a test he had to pass and started experiencing it again. All right, this is where I need to clear up a few big myths that are doing real damage to men over 40. These are things guys hear from friends, media, or the internet, and they sound logical, but they're flat out wrong. Myth number 1. If my desire is lower, that means I'm just getting old. This one drives me crazy. Yes, hormones change with age, but desire doesn't just disappear on its own. What usually drops is resilience. Poor sleep, insulin resistance, stress, and inflammation blunt testosterone's effect on the brain. Men assume it's age, so they stop addressing the root cause, and that's how decline accelerates. Myth number 2. More stimulation equals better sex. This is backwards, especially after 40. Overstimulation desensitizes the nervous system. When your brain is constantly chasing novelty or intensity, real intimacy starts to feel like work. The truth is, better sex comes from better regulation, calmer nerves, better blood flow, and stronger hormonal signaling. Myth number 3. If I need help, I've failed as a man. This belief keeps men silent and stuck. Sexual health is health. We don't shame men for wearing glasses or taking blood pressure medication, but somehow sex gets wrapped up in ego. The reality is, the strongest men are the ones who address problems early instead of pretending they don't exist. Here's the part nobody tells you. Most sexual issues in men over 40 are reversible or improvable when you stop blaming yourself and start understanding your body. Once you drop these myths, everything else becomes a lot easier to fix. Here's a quick recap so you can lock this in. First, a lot of what Americans are doing sexually right now is driven by stimulation, speed, and pressure, not by what the male body over 40 actually responds to best. Second, visual-driven solo stimulation can quietly retrain your brain in a way that makes real-life intimacy harder, not easier. Third, rushed, goal-oriented sex keeps your stress hormones high and your blood flow working against you. Fourth, constantly chasing novelty can desensitize your dopamine system and leave you feeling bored or disconnected faster than you expect. Fifth, relying on alcohol or performance aids without fixing the basics slowly erodes confidence and natural function. And sixth, avoidance and silence create a downward loop that affects hormones, desire, and self-esteem far more than most men realize. We talked about how a lot of common sexual habits today are built around speed, stimulation, and pressure, and how that setup works against men over 40. We covered visual-driven solo stimulation and how too much intensity retrains the brain in a way that makes real intimacy harder. We talked about rushed, goal-focused sex and how stress hormones sabotage erections and desire. We broke down novelty chasing and why constant variety can actually dull satisfaction over time. We discussed performance-enhanced sex and how over-reliance on pills or alcohol quietly undermines confidence. We addressed avoidance and silence, which create a cycle that lowers hormones and self-esteem. And we talked about ego-driven, high-pressure sex that looks powerful on the surface but exhausts the nervous system underneath. The bottom line is this: your sexual health isn't about doing more or trying harder. It's about understanding how your body works now and adjusting your approach so your hormones, brain, and blood flow are all on the same team again. If this conversation hit home for you, do me a favor and let me know by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. That's how I know this kind of honest, straight-talk information is actually helping you. I also want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the one thing about your energy, libido, or performance that's changed the most in the last few years? You're not the only one dealing with it, and your question might help another guy who's hesitant to speak up. And if you're serious about improving your hormones, blood sugar, and sexual performance the right way, check the description below. I've put a free men's health guide there that walks you through the exact foundations I use with patients every day. No hype, no gimmicks, just practical steps that work for men over 40. I want you to remember this. Nothing you're experiencing means you're weak, broken, or past your prime. Your body is changing, and when you understand those changes, you can absolutely regain confidence, energy, and satisfaction in your life and relationships. You don't have to guess, and you don't have to go through it alone. I'm Dr. Camila Hayes from Diabetes Health Clinic. Take care of yourself, stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next video.